everybody, welcome to the Frank and Sandy Show. I'm Frank and this is Sandy. Say hello, Sandy.
Hello.
Today we're going to take you just north of Boston to meet the creators of the Vineyard at Florence. Today we're here with Kris Davis and Kambrah Garland. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're at the Vineyard at Florence, which is just outside of Austin, Texas. We wanted to know more about how this beautiful place got created. At first we thought it was just a winery. Then we noticed it had a vineyard. Then we noticed you had villas. Then we noticed you had fantastic food. Then we noticed you had casitas. Then we noticed you had home sites. This is not just your average any one of those. This is a city. So I gotta know, how did you guys create all this? It's magic, it's paradise almost. How did you do this?
Oh, that's so nice. Well, we went to Italy about 15, 16 years ago and really fell in love. I mean, we got off the plane and felt at home and thought, how can we live here? And we knew that we would never move to Italy. We have children, we would eventually have grandchildren. And so we thought, how can we create it? So we spent several years really envisioning how we could create this dream and how we could live in a place that when we woke up in the morning, we couldn't wait to go outside. We couldn't wait to look out our window. So after several years of dreaming and envisioning different types of businesses and different types of land, we started searching and we came up with this. And so this is the manifestation of those dreams.
How did you pick Florence, Texas?
Well, we actually went to about 6 different places around the country and had different criteria, met the people, looked at the land, looked at the soil, and we settled on north of Austin. We just fell in love with this area. And we knew that we wanted to pattern our business model after a Tuscan village. And so we went to a land broker to show us some pieces of land, and 2 of the 3 pieces of land that he showed us were in Florence, Texas. Okay. I mean, how ironic. Florence,
that is
Texas.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, when you're here and you stay in one of the casitas that you have, like we've done multiple times, you think you're in Italy. It's so magical. I mean, you get up and you just look over the sprawling hillsides and the vineyards, and it's quiet, it's serene. It's like what I would imagine it to be in the countryside of Tuscany, Florence. How did you go to putting together plans to build all of that? I mean, that's a lot of thought, a lot of creativity, a lot of design work.
Well, once we got past our own vision, we started asking people what their visions were. What would they want in a community, in this type of a community? So that's really where we started. So we started with our own ideas, and then we went to others and said, what would you love? What do you want to see when you look out your window? What do you want to wake up to? Do you want people around? How close do you want people? So we really put a lot of thought in the detail. We do have a real estate development here, and it's similar to like a golf course community, but there's no golf course. It's centered around a vineyard, and we wanted people to really feel like that they had community, but that they also still had space. So that's really why we have the villa that people can come down to and have wonderful food and communion with people and a spa and things like that. But then also if they want to go and hike or ride horses and be by themselves, and then they can do that as well.
Yeah, that's one thing that we find really nice is that when you have places to stay, at the vineyard, you know, you can go have a couple of glasses of wine, not have to worry about driving home. You can just stay here. And it's not like it's a Motel 6 either. All of your casitas, we've stayed in a number of them now, and your little villas, they are attention to detail city. I mean, it is beautiful. We were noticing that again yesterday. We were looking at the doors, the craftsmanship of the wood. I mean, it's not like those, you know, paper doors that don't quite close right. I mean, it just feels like you're in an old world castle, you know, in one of the rooms somewhere in it. It's really magical. Did you design all that yourselves, or did you bring in like interior decorators, or how did you put that all together?
We had a lot of help. We've had wonderful architects. The building that you can see here, our main building that we call Villa Florence, is there's 2 wings to it, and we had 200-year-old barns from New York State that were dismantled, brought down here, and the whole building was created around these 200-year-old barns. So it really gives it the appearance of age, although we're new. So that really is part of what we've done. And yes, we've had wonderful people come in and help with our vision to create all of this.
Well, I know what all you viewers are thinking. How glamorous! This must be beautiful to wake up every day and just bask in the glory of a beautiful, wonderful business, unlike my corporate job in a cube and that kind of thing. But I'll bet you have great stories about things that didn't go quite according to plan. Any that you'd like to tell us about?
We do have some good stories.
Yeah, we do have good stories. Well, I think one of the more fun stories is that we had started our vineyards and we were tilling the land and we were ready to rock. And all of a sudden we were putting up our deer fencing, and all of a sudden we noticed there was a little bit of a fire out there.
Oops.
And some welding, hot ashes had fallen down, and all of a sudden our entire field, it was about 60 acres on fire. And so we called in our fire department, and what we did not realize was that, or what they did not realize was there were 4-foot trenches ripped already into the ground. So the fire engine went in, sunk, and so it was really, everything was fine, nothing was bad. It was just one of those things that was very unexpected. And so that was kind of one of our more dramatic starts to this, to the whole place. So it was fun.
I'm sure you have, every business owner does, and you have funny stories up the wazoo. What's the funniest thing that comes to mind?
Oh, wow.
I think rolling into town and having the entire community finding it totally hilarious that 2 women were basically starting a farm. We're going to be farmers, and how are they going to pull it off? Right. And I think that was,
Do you find people are a little skeptical? Are they really going to be able to do that? Are they really going to get off the ground?
Absolutely. I mean, we got a lot of those old gals, down the road are doing that vineyard thing. We got a lot of that. We also have neighbors who have been unbelievably supportive. The gentleman that we bought this land from is actually still our neighbor, and he raises horses. And he had many times would come and pull us out of the ditch with his trucks and tractors.
So there's a theme about ditches and getting stuck.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
If you buy something like this and set off to this adventure, get out your big rubber boots up to here. We've got a lot more coming from Kris and Kambrah in the vineyard at Florence. Stay with us. We're going to be back in about 45 seconds.
We're the Frank and Sandy Show. We travel. Our guests have attitude. We turn up in exotic places.
Here we are in Costa Rica, and we're actually still not there.
You'll find us on cruise ships. We're doing travel interviews.
I like puppies. Well, she must be a Democrat.
You'll never know what's around our next corner.
So let's talk about your fabulous wines, because they truly are fabulous. We have been all over Texas looking for great vineyards to go and support and be part of, and we found a lot of good wines. But this is the first one that jumped to our top of our list by far. We love Bordeaux wines, we love Sonoma County, Napa wines, that kind of stuff. We love wines from all over the world, from Spain to Malbecs to just about everywhere. But this was spectacular.
We have 2 hybrids. We have a actual grape that is indigenous to America, and then we planted Cabernet. And so we were surprised by all the outcomes of the wines. and we have great minerality in our soil, so we are really directing our wines that direction. So it's more old world style.
Well, from the moment that you planted the vines, when did you get your first bottle of drinkable wine?
2009 was our first harvest.
What was that like when you opened that first one? Well, you didn't open the bottle. You probably tasted that.
Yeah, there were a lot of trials on the way. It was super surprising.
Yeah.
And we have a fantastic winemaker. His name's Dan Garland. And, I think it was surprising for him too, because he was working with varietals that were new to him as well.
Okay.
So it's been, a series of surprises. We're still in a learning process of what direction the wines can go based on, what's coming out of these particular plants based on this soil. So we're tweaking it as the years go on. So I think every year we're learning more, we're adjusting, and that's really Dan's bailiwick. I mean, he's the maestro of wine here. But so each year it gets a little bit different. So it's exciting.
And we really knew that we had something special about 6 weeks after harvest. I'll never forget, I was sitting in the office and Dan and Kambrah walked in. Oh, I get teary thinking about this, with a flask of just a sample of the wine out of the tank. It was the R White. And they were both just shaking their heads because we really didn't know that we were going to be able to make great wine. We thought we could, but we weren't sure. And 80% of a great wine is the grape, and the rest of it is the winemaking. And so it was 6 weeks or 6 weeks after harvest. They said, you have to taste this, and it doesn't taste anything like what this tastes now.
Right.
But it was the foundation of what this became, and they both knew from that foundation that it was going to be something spectacular.
Oh, that must have been an exciting moment.
It was a game changer for us.
Oh, I'll bet. You said all of a sudden I've got diamonds, and I wasn't sure if I was going to
That's
throw
right,
bricks
exactly.
or what happened.
That's right.
So much to talk about here at the vineyard, but we had to know, how did they create these fantastic wines in the depth of Texas heat? Plants hate Texas heat, including grapes. How did they do it? How did they create this award-winning wine? Well, we found out. Here's what they said. Sandy and I have grown a lot of plants in our days. We learned firsthand how difficult it is if you don't judge what you're going to plant by the weather and the terroir and all that. Everything will die on you. But if you work with the land and with the environment, say, this is going to grow, that's not, we're going to plant this one. We learned firsthand how critical that is, so you guys are really smart to be doing that, and maybe that's how you beat the system in the heat of Texas and grown spectacular grapes to make spectacular wine.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that, again, like Kambrah said, we're still learning, and we're babies at this, and we don't pretend to be the experts. But Kambrah is a true farmer at heart. It's what she loves, it's her passion, and she's a very intuitive farmer. So she will go in and look and decide what something needs based on what she senses. And so the very first year, I think, was the year that you decided that we've got to get the pyrazine out of these white grapes. It's really the chemical, is it a chemical, I guess, that causes a very foul odor in this grape when you crush the wine. And she figured out that if we cut the canopy up and let the sunlight hit the grapes, let them hang a little bit longer, that we could actually get that out. It was genius.
Well, anybody that's from New England and knows how to farm, that's a full contact sport.
True.
So, I mean, maybe that's where your natural abilities have come from in all of this. So that's fantastic. I think I've even seen pictures of you with the crew out in the tractors, in the big boots and all of that.
Yeah.
Did I mention rubber boots, big boots, if you're going to do something like this?
Did either one of you have any bed and breakfast experience or hospitality industry? Do you have close friends that did it? Did you know anyone who was in the hospitality business?
No, and that has been a real challenge for us because we really care about customer service, and we really care that people come and love their experience from the moment they get here until the moment that they leave. And we've made some mistakes, and hopefully we've learned from those mistakes and are improving every single month that we go along.
Well, we've stayed here many times. We can't see any of your mistakes. It is fantastic.
Thank you.
The attention to detail and the service has been fantastic.
Especially like those two little chocolates that are sitting next to the bed. It's like, oh, those are quite tasty. But I rarely get them. Somebody else in the room
I wonder who that is.
tends to scarf them up.
We hear that a lot.
But I mean, I don't know, it seems like you guys know how to do the villa casita thing expertly. I mean, it's not like you just started from fresh and you never did it before. I was going to ask you, do you have like hospitality industry? How did you know how to do all of that and make it come out right?
I think it's just the experience of traveling yourself, probably like you guys. You guys travel a lot. And so what do you remember that you liked, and what do you remember that made it so stand out in your mind and super different?
Well, and I think that a lot of times when I travel, I don't bring home, I would say, things that are souvenirs. Sometimes I might have had a great meal, and I'll try to recreate that recipe when I come home. Or, why did I feel so relaxed in that environment? How can I bring that relaxation to my home? So I bring home different kinds of souvenirs than people do when they're traveling, and I can see that you've done the same and created magic here at the Vineyard.
It was interesting because you talk about excellent service, and we experienced that last night because I got the munchies. We were in the casita, and we were just sitting there having a glass of wine. I go, God, I'm so hungry, but we weren't watching the time. And so we got here like 8:10 to the front of the building. We said, I think they have little tasty morsels in there. I know they do. I remember them. And, it's locked. Rats. We weren't able to get in. But they came chasing out after us and said, no worries, no worries. Come on in. And, let us in, and they got us appetizers and got some more wine, all of that, and it was delicious. It was fantastic. But not only was that really over the top, that hey, we're closed, but come on in anyways. Oh, and yes, sure, we'll get you appetizers. Oh, and sure, we'll get you all that. Even though the staff's trying to close up and go home, and we're trying to eat fast or whatever, not to overstay our welcome. But that was excellent.
Wow, that's great to hear.
Yeah. So your people are in the game.
Well, it really is. It's why we are who we are. Our people, we have many people who have been with us from the very beginning. We could not have done this and cannot do this without them. And they're family. I mean, this is a family. So we're eternally grateful for those people.
What an amazing place. We've got a lot more coming from the Vineyard of Florence. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Let's say you hated your job, and the hustle and tussle of life was getting you down. Would you move to a third world country and start over? Meet the Pisani's. They sold everything and moved to Costa Rica. And Nadine wrote some hysterical books.
Just write about all the dopey things your husband did.
And had eye-opening moments.
I am not in America anymore.
New rules.
There's new rules.
And made some awesome discoveries.
You see, there's a lot of similarities between Brooklyn and a third world country.
And mostly learned how to live life. See the full interview on YouTube/Frank and Sandy Show.
I want to talk about your tasting room because it's a little bit cut above most of the ones we've been to in terms of its detail, in terms of it just floors you when you walk in. I don't know quite what's doing it, and some of you folks are looking at this on the overlays as I'm talking about it in the background, but it's just magical. It just has this feeling like it's been there 5,000 years, and the people have been making wine for 4,900 of those years. How did you create that?
Wow, well, when we went to Italy, initially, we went into a very tiny tasting room that we loved the flow. And that was really always in the back of our mind as far as just the flow and the feel of the tasting room. And then we actually patterned and built the entire facility around two 200-year-old barns from upstate New York.
Wow.
So they were dismantled. The barns were dismantled and brought down here. There's no nails in the barns. They're pegged, so they have that very old kind of rustic feel, and it really is what creates that sense of age.
So those beams that are in there are out of those barns.
That's right. They're 200-year-old barns.
I knew there had to be something going on that made this different. It wasn't plastic at all in its nature. It was real and earthy and just spectacular. So you guys hit the ball of the park. That was a great way to do it. What made you think about going to get all of this to do it that way as opposed to, well, let's just get a contractor to build the place?
Yeah, we knew that we wanted to use old wood. We just didn't know the process. Again, this wasn't what we had done in our past. So we went to a man who knew something about that, and he was the one that told us about this wonderful company, actually in Waco. Just sort of circumstantially, they're in Waco. The company is in Waco, and they get their barns from the Northeast.
The company is Heritage Restorations.
Okay.
And they do beautiful work for homes and commercial buildings as well.
Well, good. When I'm building my next vineyard, in my wine tasting room, I'll know exactly who to go to
Right.
get it on the, you know, the game.
Right.
I just got to ask this question. When you folks were 15, 20 years old, I bet you were thinking back, I'm going to start a vineyard one day, right?
No.
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 Looking back over the last 7 years, what comes to mind in terms of the overall experience? A lot of work, I'm sure. A lot of successes, a lot of, that went wrong, but how would you describe it?
Wow, I mean, it's a great question. Kambrah and I both have a very aligned vision of creating experiences, of creating joy and creating beauty. And we were really not attached to how that looked. We were really more attached to the experience and the feeling. And this is the result of that.
You know, we haven't been out here at the vineyard when a wedding actually has been taking place, but it must be so picturesque and such a beautiful venue for a bride on her big day.
It is a magical experience. You see from the guests walking in to the bride with the sunlight at her back walking down the aisle. It's remarkable.
Do you normally do them at sunset or?
Often, yes.
Okay.
Often at
with
sunset.
the vineyard in the background,
That's right.
I saw the gazebo, which you could adorn beautifully
Yes.
with floral. Yes.
Yes, and then people come to the courtyard and have a big party overlooking the vines. It's just amazing.
That would be a fantastic thing. All their relatives actually
Right.
could stay in the villas
That's
right
right.
on property. They could make an entire weekend out of it.
That's exactly right.
It's
And
a
many people
destination
do.
wedding.
It is a destination wedding.
Wonderful.
Okay, I'm sorry, this is Disneyland for adults.
It is. That's a great way to put it.
I mean, this is just too much, and this is absolutely beautiful. It's
Thank
just,
you.
Here we are 7 years into this, milestones achieved, successes have happened. It's fantastic the way it is, but I know this isn't the end of the story. Where's it going?
We've really been listening to people and really what they want. And one of the things that we keep hearing over and over is that we'd really love to have a corporate retreat here. We have the food, we have a great space that people can come and relax after meetings. We have wonderful, amazing rooms, but we're in the country. So we really needed to make sure that we had all the Wi-Fi and all the audio visual and things like that and the technology that people would need to have business meetings. So that's really where we've gotten to now. We have this wonderful facility called Villa El Amore. It has a commercial kitchen in there, so people can even bring in their own chefs or bring in their own catering companies if they want, or we can cater it, and have a room and a space big enough that people can all get together. They can also break it out into smaller groups, and then we have overnight villas if they want to make a 2 or 3 or 4 day, week out of it.
Perfect. That sounds fantastic. Any new wines planned on the horizon as well?
Oh, there are new wines planned on the horizon. I'll let Kambrah speak to that.
I don't want to do a spoiler alert.
We've got a couple new wines that will be launching probably 2014.
Okay.
And so that's exciting for us. And we're always looking to raise the bar. So we've got new wines coming so our clients have more opportunity to taste new things. I think the direction of the wines remains unknown, which is actually even more creative and more exciting to us. But I think that in all of Texas, everybody's raising the bar on the wines, and that's exciting for our industry and for our state.
Yeah.
And we just hope to be contributing to that.
The Vineyard. I love talking about that place, and I'm glad you got to enjoy it with us today too. And also meet the creators who came up with this amazing idea and how they went about doing it. We have a lot more videos on our YouTube site, and we hope you have a chance to look at those. So until next time,
Ciao.